It was a moment not seen in 30 years. The chamber of South Africa's National Assembly, once a stage for triumphant majorities, now echoed with the whispers of a fractured democracy. The date was June 14, 2024. The African National Congress, the party of Nelson Mandela, the movement that liberated a nation, had been humbled. For the first time since the end of apartheid, it had lost its absolute majority. Out of the ashes of that electoral earthquake, a new complex and precarious political entity has been born, the Government of National Unity, or rather the GNU. Not a grand coalition of ideological allies, but a pragmatic pact of former adversaries bound together by a single urgent mission to prevent South Africa from falling apart. This is a story of political calculation, economic necessity, and a nation's fragile hope for a better future. This is the story of South Africa's great coalition gamble. The reasons for this forced political marriage are rooted in cold hard arithmetic. The ANC, battered by years of corruption, rampant unemployment, and crippling power cuts, known as load shedding, saw its support plummet to just 40%. The electorate, especially a generation too young to remember apartheid, delivered a stinging verdict. The Liberation Party could no longer govern alone. To reclaim power, the ANC needed partners, but its options were fraught with danger. A coalition with the radical economic freedom fighters, with its policies of nationalization, would have terrified investors and international markets. The other large party, the Umkhonto weSizwe party of former President Jacob Zuma, was and remains openly hostile, contesting the very election's results. And so, the only path left was the most difficult one. An alliance with its historical rival, the official opposition, the Democratic Alliance, a party that represented a very different, predominantly white and business-oriented constituency. The GNU became a firewall against chaos, a coalition of necessity, not of choice. It was a deliberate echo of the 1994 unity government that Mandela led, invoking a nostalgic spirit of reconciliation in a time of deep crisis. The implications of this pact are being felt in every corner of the government. The new cabinet is a bewildering mosaic of political colors. ANC ministers now sit alongside those from the DA and other smaller parties. Imagine the tense negotiations in the union buildings. The Minister of Agriculture, a DA member, now holds a powerful check of the ANC's long-held ambitions for land reforms. The Party of Business oversees public works. This is no longer a government of one voice. It is a constant, delicate tug of war. Every policy, every budget line, every piece of legislation will now be a subject of intense negotiation. The greatest risk is paralysis. Can a government that contains both free market liberals and socialist nationalists ever agree a coherent way or plan to fix the nation's energy crisis or its crumbling railways? Or will ideological differences lead to deadlock, stalling the very progress the nation so desperately needs? Yet, it is precisely the fear of economic collapse that forged this unity, and the markets have responded with cautious optimism. The mere announcement of the GNU and the exclusion of more radical parties steadied the rand and prevented a feared investor exodus. The message to the world was clear: South Africa's economic policy will remain anchored in the center. The hope is that this political stability will unlock investment, particularly in the key energy and logistics sectors that are choking economic growth. Business leaders are breathing a tentative sigh of relief. The promise of a more transparent government with built-in opposition oversight suggests that the rampant corruption of the so-called state capture years could be harder to execute. But the optimism is fragile. It hinges entirely on this diverse and unwieldy team demonstrating tangible results. So, what does the future hold for this grand experiment? The prospects are a spectrum of possibilities. On one hand, a best-case scenario, the GNU survives its initial fractures. The parties discover a pragmatic consensus on key issues. They appoint competent officials, not political loyalists, to run state-owned enterprises. The light stays on. The post run efficiently, confidence grows, investment follows, and jobs are slowly created. The GNU becomes a model of mature, post-ideological politics. On the other end, the worst-case scenario, ideological differences prove insurmountable. The partnership collapses under the weight of mutual distrust, leading to political chaos, early elections, and a potential descent into the very instability the GNU was designed to prevent. And the most likely path, a messy, difficult middle, a government that functions but in fits and starts, one that achieves modest successes, stabilizing the energy grid perhaps, but remains constantly embroiled in internal squabbles, a perpetual negotiation that tests the patience of a nation's yearning for decisive action. 30 years ago, the Government of National Unity helped birth a democratic South Africa. Today, another GNU is trying to save it. It is a high-stake gamble, born not from victory but from a defeat. It is a testament of a nation's resilience, but also a reflection of its profound challenges. The story of this coalition is still being written. Its authors are not just the politicians in Pretoria, but every South African waiting for the lights to stay on, waiting for a job, waiting for a sign that their fractured nation can still find a way to unite. For now, the experiment continues. The nation holds its breath and watches keenly. This has been a feature on the South Africa's Government of National Unity, right here on Africa Untold. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share to keep getting more of this content.